What if I told you that right now, while you're watching this video, America's power grid is being probed by foreign hackers, that our GPS satellites are being jammed, that our supply chains are more fragile than a house of cards in a hurricane? This isn't science fiction. This isn't fear-mongering. This is the reality that defense officials discuss behind closed doors, but rarely share with the American people. Because if World War III started tomorrow, it wouldn't begin with bombs falling on American cities. It would begin with your phone losing signal, your credit card getting declined, and your local grocery store running out of food. And the terrifying truth is, we're not ready for any of it. Where we cut through the noise to bring you the hard facts that matter for your family's security. I'm not here to sell you gold or survival gear. I'm here to translate what our own government agencies are saying into language you can understand and act on. According to the Department of Homeland Security's 2024 threat assessment, the United States faces what they call a polycrisis. Multiple, interconnected threats that could cascade into nationwide disruption faster than most Americans realize. The Pentagon's latest national defense strategy warns that our adversaries have studied our vulnerabilities for decades and are prepared to exploit them simultaneously. This isn't about predicting the future. This is about understanding the present danger that's hiding in plain sight. Here's what most Americans don't understand about modern warfare. The next World War won't look like the last one. There won't be fleets of bombers darkening the sky, or armies marching across battlefield. The battlefield is already here, invisible and interconnected, running through the fiber optic cables under your feet and the satellites above your head. According to Reuters and the Associated Press, Chinese military hackers have been detected inside American utility companies for over 2 years. Russian cyber units have planted malware in our water treatment facilities. Iranian proxies have probed our financial networks. North Korean operatives have tested attacks on our hospital systems. These aren't preparations for some future conflict. These are the opening moves of a war that's already begun. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, known as CISA, released a report last month that should terrify every American. They identified over 890 vulnerabilities in critical infrastructure systems that foreign adversaries could exploit to cause catastrophic disruption to daily life. Power grids, water systems, hospitals, banks, transportation networks, all of them compromised. All of them waiting for someone to flip the switch. But here's the part that keeps defense analysts awake at night. Our enemies won't attack these systems one at a time. They'll hit them all at once, in what military strategists call a coordinated campaign of maximum pressure. Imagine your power going out while your water stops flowing, while your bank accounts freeze, while your phone networks crash, all in the same hour. The Federal Emergency Management Agency conducted a classified simulation last year called "The Scenario Was Simple: What Happens to American Society if Critical Infrastructure Fails Simultaneously across multiple states." According to sources who briefed Congress on the results, the answer is chaos within 72 hours and potential societal breakdown within 2 weeks. Why? Because modern America runs on a system of just-in-time everything. Your local grocery store stocks only 3 days' worth of food. Your pharmacy keeps only a week's supply of medications. Your gas station relies on daily deliveries. Remove the trucks, the power or the payment systems, and the whole thing collapses like a controlled demolition. And it gets worse. The trucking industry, which moves 70% of America's goods, depends entirely on GPS navigation and electronic logging systems that can be hacked or jammed. According to the American Trucking Association, a coordinated attack on trucking networks, the Port of Los Angeles, which handles 20% of all container traffic entering the United States, operates almost entirely through automated systems that foreign hackers have already penetrated. According to classified briefings given to the House Committee on Homeland Security, a single successful attack could paralyze West Coast commerce for weeks. Let me paint you a picture of what day one looks like. You wake up and your phone has no signal. Your Wi-Fi is down. You flip the light switch. Nothing. You turn on the radio. Dead air. You try to start your car, but if it's a newer model with electronic systems, it might not respond. You walk to the corner store to buy bottled water, but their card readers are down and the ATM is black. By hour 6, people are lining up at the few gas stations that still have power, paying cash if they have it. By hour 12, grocery stores are limiting purchases and closing early. By hour 24, pharmacies are overwhelmed with people trying to refill essential medication. By hour 48, local hospitals are operating on backup generators and turning away non-emergency patients. By hour 72, schools are closing indefinitely. Police departments are rationing fuel. Fire departments are responding only to life-threatening emergency. Municipal water systems are running on backup power that's designed to last only days, dead weeks. This isn't Hollywood disaster porn. This is the scenario that FEMA, the Department of Defense, and the Department of Homeland Security train for regularly. They call it Teo Woki, the end of the world as we know it. And their own classified assessments suggest that most American communities would face complete breakdown of normal services within 1 week. But here's what makes this threat uniquely dangerous. Our enemies know we know about it, and they're counting on our paralysis. Chinese military doctrine calls this unrestricted warfare, using every available means to attack an enemy without technically crossing the threshold into declared war. Russian strategists call it hybrid warfare, blending cyber attacks, economic pressure, and social manipulation to achieve military objectives without firing a shot. The most chilling part? They're not waiting for some future opportunity. According to intelligence briefings cited by the Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times, foreign adversaries are already positioning assets for what they call the day of maximum vulnerability, a moment when America faces multiple crises simultaneously and can't respond effectively to all of them. Think about it. What happens if a major cyber attack hits our power grid during a natural disaster? What if financial networks crash during a pandemic? What if GPS satellites go dark during a supply chain crisis? Our enemies have studied our response capabilities, and they know we can't handle overlapping emergencies. The Department of Defense has a term for this: multi-domain operations. But while we're still learning how to defend against attacks that come from space, cyberspace, land, sea, and air all at once, our adversaries have been practicing coordinated strikes for over a decade. Here's where it gets personal. The average American household has enough food for 3 days, enough water for 1 day, and enough cash on hand for maybe a week of basic expenses. We've built a society that assumes the lights stay on, the trucks keep rolling, and the networks never fail. But what happens when all three assumptions prove wrong at the same time? The answer is already being written in classified after-action reports from recent infrastructure failures. When Winter Storm Uri hit Texas in 2021, the power grid collapsed and took everything else with it. Water treatment plants failed. Cell towers went dark. Gas stations couldn't pump fuel. Grocery stores couldn't process payments. Within 72 hours, one of America's most prosperous states looked like a third-world country. Imagine if it was coordinated. Imagine if it happened not just in Texas, but in California, New York, and Florida simultaneously. The North American Electric Reliability Corporation, which oversees our power grid, has warned that a coordinated cyber attack could leave parts of the United States without electricity for weeks or even months. Not hours or days, weeks or months. How long can your family survive without power? Without running water? Without refrigeration, without heat or air conditioning? But electricity is just the beginning. Our financial system processes over 150 million electronic transactions every day. Credit cards, debit cards, wire transfers, direct deposits, all of it moving through networks that foreign hackers have already penetrated. According to the Federal Reserve, a sustained attack on banking infrastructure could freeze the entire economy within. When people can't access their money, they panic. When they panic, they hoard. When they hoard, shelves empty and prices skyrocket. This isn't theory, we saw it happen during the early days of the COVID pandemic. And that was just fear of a virus. Imagine the response to an actual attack on American soil. Transportation is the third domino. The Federal Aviation Administration has warned that GPS jamming technology, already deployed by Russia and China in regional conflicts, could ground commercial aviation across the United States. Not just military flights. Commercial flights carrying passengers, cargo, and critical supplies. Meanwhile, our railway system, which carries 40% of long-distance freight, runs on computerized signaling systems that are vulnerable to cyber attack. The American Association of Railroads has documented over 200 attempted intrusions into rail networks in the past year alone. A successful attack could derail not just trains but the entire supply chain that keeps America fed and fueled. And then there's water. The Environmental Protection Agency has identified over 150,000 public water systems across the United States, most of them operating with computer controls that can be accessed remotely. According to the American Water Works Association, a coordinated attack on water infrastructure could leave entire metropolitan areas without safe drinking water for weeks. Healthcare is perhaps our most vulnerable sector. The American Hospital Association reports that hospitals face an average of 43 cyber attacks per day. During the COVID pandemic, several major hospital systems were completely shut down by ransomware attacks. Now imagine that happening simultaneously across multiple cities during a national crisis. The food supply chain is equally fragile. According to the Food and Drug Administration, just 4 companies control 85% of beef processing in America. 5 companies control 70% of pork production. 6 companies control 53% of chicken processing. Attack the computer systems that run these facilities, and you can starve a nation without firing a shot. Here's what our enemies understand that most Americans don't. You don't need to invade a country to destroy it. You just need to turn off the systems that keep it running. And those systems are all connected, all computerized, and all vulnerable. The signs are already there if you know where to look. Increased military readiness exercises with names like Cyberstorm and Dark Winter. Classified briefings to state governors about gray zone warfare and below-the-threshold attacks. Emergency supply purchases by federal agencies that they won't discuss publicly. Foreign military publications are openly discussing these strategies. Chinese military journals describe attacks on information infrastructure as more effective than traditional bombing campaigns. Russian defense magazines analyze American critical nodes and how to target them for maximum systemic disruption. So here's the question that should haunt every American household. If the unthinkable happened tomorrow, if the systems we take for granted suddenly failed, would your family be ready? Not ready like you see in the movies, but ready for the quiet, grinding reality of infrastructure collapse in the world's most connected society. The truth is, most of us aren't. We've been lulled into thinking that preparedness is for extremists and conspiracy theorists. But when the Pentagon, FEMA, and the Department of Homeland Security are all training for the same scenarios, it's not conspiracy, it's national security. Here's what you can do starting today. First, build a communication plan that doesn't depend on cell towers or internet. Agree on a meeting place. Designate an out-of-state contact who can coordinate information. Buy a battery-powered or hand-crank radio that can receive emergency broadcasts. Program important numbers into an old phone that doesn't rely on internet connectivity. Second, create a financial buffer that doesn't depend on electronic systems. Keep enough cash at home to cover essential expenses for at least 2 weeks. Small bills are better than large ones, and coins matter too when card readers are down. Consider precious metals as a hedge against currency collapse. But remember, you can't eat gold. Third, stock supplies that give you independence from just-in-time delivery systems. Water for at least 3 days per person. 1 gallon per day for drinking and basic hygiene. Better yet, install a water filtration system and learn multiple purification methods. Non-perishable food for at least 2 weeks, with a goal of building up to 3 months. Focus on foods your family actually eats, and rotate your stock regularly. Fourth, learn skills that don't depend on the grid. How to cook without electricity. How to purify water using multiple methods. How to stay warm without central heating. How to preserve food without refrigeration. How to navigate without GPS. How to communicate without cell phones. These aren't survivalist fantasies. They're basic human capabilities that our grandparents took for granted. Fifth, build relationships with your neighbors before you need them. In every disaster, natural or man-made, communities that know and trust each other recover faster and stronger. Share skills, share resources, and share information. Form a neighborhood watch that can become a mutual aid network. Because when the systems fail, people are what matter most. Sixth, diversify your dependencies. Don't rely on a single source for anything critical. Have backup plans for power, water, food, communication, transportation, and security. The more redundant your systems, the more resilient you become. Seventh, stay informed about the real threats, not the ones that sell newspapers. Follow official channels like CS alerts, FBI cybersecurity updates, and FEMA guidelines. Learn to recognize the difference between legitimate warnings and fear-mongering. The enemies at our gates aren't just studying our military capabilities. They're studying our psychology. They know that Americans are optimists by nature, that we believe technology will always save us, that we trust our institutions to protect us. They're counting on that trust to make us complacent until it's too late. But here's what they don't understand about Americans. When we wake up to a threat, we don't just defend against it, we defeat it. We did it in World War II when we turned our entire economy into a war machine. We did it in the Cold War when we out-innovated the Soviet Union. And we can do it again if we act now. The question isn't whether America will face a coordinated infrastructure attack. Intelligence officials from both parties agree it's not a matter of if, but when. The question is whether we'll be ready when it comes. Because the truth is, when the next war comes to America, it won't announce itself with sirens and explosions. It will arrive with silence. The silence of dead phones, dark screens, and empty shelves. And in that silence, the families who prepared will be the ones who survive. The communities that practiced will be the ones that endure. The nation that planned will be the one that prevails. Don't wait for the government to save you. Don't wait for the experts to warn you. Don't wait for the perfect moment or the complete solution. Start now. Start small. Because in the world that's coming, the prepared won't just survive. They'll be the ones who help America rebuild.